Yeah, work on fur and blending colors for like going into fall. So they'll probably be most of July and a good part of August.
Okay.
And then we'll, if you remind me, I'll add a lettering bit too, because the whole thing on this was you guys were supposed to tell me what you wanted to learn, and best that you wanted to go through the basics. But the basics are always a good thing to go through, especially if you're going to start manual punching things again.
Yeah.
And this will be a good review for everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert an image, and I will send you guys this image. I'm trying to keep everything in order, Oh, that's your cross-stitch design, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't wonder. I didn't have enough, that many colors to do that, but it turned out that great.
It looked pretty good. Cross-stitch is a funny little, there it is. I figure since it's the 4th of July, we'll use this, right? And get to resize. And that's how the image came in. And we know to scoot it here and scoot a little bit and then get to the drop select. And we can size. Yay! Let me zoom him back out to the middle. Okay, so now he's out. Let's see, right that side. It's bigger, but it's always sometimes easier to work bigger and then shrink them down, right? And a friend drew this for me years and years and years ago. And, it's something that you have to add things to. So, it's just a basic outline. Like, you can start playing with the hair. These are very basic. We can throw some, different touches into this. And we have to use a little bit of everything. We have to use fill. Select. Let me get back up to select. It's a fill, this obviously, but you're going to want to do satin and get fancy here. Like on the eyes, you're going to have to place it with you a little bit. And then, of course, there's the hair, which you can kind of see where a part may go, into the ears. And you can outline or not outline, but it's an image to play with. And get used to the manual punching tools again. And these are the manual punching tools over here. We do not work anymore. So bother with that. Okay, this is enhanced column, and that's going to be the manual stitch. This is the one that doesn't give you to between your clicks. And you're going to run a stitch, right? This is your complex fill. So this is the one you're probably going to use quite a bit, but, between these two, I have a little bit of outline practice because I am going to make you kind of outline this. And not you use outlines on everything, but it's always a good idea what program does. Like some programs you can outline right on the edge. Some programs you need to outline and set it inset a little bit. You don't really know until you stitch the design out, and out. And sensation, each little quirks. And we'll just start with this. So we'll use our complex fill. It's going to be, go ahead and extend it past this. And if you need to, you can always, zoom in, right? But I would extend a little bit past just this circle. Do the curve, right? You're just going to basically click around. And a big circle, the extra points in. Give you curves, and if you want to curve all the way, or, if you make a mistake, you can backspace too. But if you curve all the way around, start with the right click and end with the right click. Otherwise, you end up with a flat spot. When we get to here, I don't want to have to try to go right on top of that, so I'm going to go to the auto close. Auto it. And I'm still, when I do auto close, my punch tool stays active. I haven't created any stitches yet, right? So if I make a hole in something, then I could easily carve a hole in here. And play with that when we get to the eye. But I want to create this area. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. And I get immediately is this little arrow, and it says, okay, where do you want your endpoint to be? And the endpoint pretty much anywhere. This is our first piece. So there's my endpoint. And then I want to know where I want my out point. Okay, the drum's going to be white. I'll put my out point maybe here and maybe make his t-shirt white too, right? So there's my out point. And now what direction? And what direction you want that filled to be in. And it does that. Now to edit a little bit, up here and turn on your show beads, and then you can see your in and out points you created. You can see, your stitch direction. And in edit, you're going to go ahead and do the vertex select. And you can blue dots. Let me change the color of the drum. I'm going to add because it's light enough. I really use white, to be honest, because it's hard to see, but I'll use like a light pink, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm dazed. Okay. So, if you're able to see those little blue is if I turn on my show dots. And I can actually go over here and edit from show dots too. I get to see those little handles.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get to the little handles. So if you want to do like a quick edit, you can do this and just grab those and move them a little bit. But like up here, instead of pulling the knots, if I really want to be able to get into here and grab the nodes and then maybe curve, I do vertex select. Okay.
Okay.
Let me just clean that up a little bit. And, there's our little drum. And we're going to really make it pink, but, sometimes pink's a little bit easier than white. I'm also going to view, sequence view. And the reason is because I need to get to other sections. At some point, I'm going to use this little eyeball here.
Okay.
Sections behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, drum center. I'm going to go ahead and do his t-shirt in white too, and probably pink wasn't the best color, so let me kind of scroll through here and add another color to our mix here. It's kind of green because of his face, so I don't necessarily want to go with white, so here's a very pale yellow. We'll go ahead and add the pale yellow. With that selected, to the pale yellow. Okay. I'm going to make his t-shirt white too. So the next thing I want to do is, I want to control my jumps. So that's a very, very area where I want to travel. Either way. With that, I would probably go ahead and say, okay, let's go ahead and let's travel a little bit down here, and I'm going to come in here. Little travel stitch. And that way I don't have any jumps. I don't have to worry about, getting up in any other colors or this white showing through so much.
Mm-hmm.
So back over to the complex fill and just begin tracing, here. And your left clicks, and it has a little hole in here in the picture. I'm going to kind of ignore that hole a little bit and just kind of go over it. It's small, it doesn't make any difference. And I'm going to kind of extend past, and compensation is always a good idea to extend past and like in here. Because if you look at that's his leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a little more accurate. And auto close. Okay. And I want my endpoint to be, there's my out point for the last one. So endpoint here. I'm not going to use, I whiten his eyes, but that's going to be, something maybe a little bit, well, no, I won't. I might use white back in there. So let's go ahead and let's make our out point. What direction? we'll just make direction. Okay, so next two pieces selected. Yeah, this is a run stitch, right? You can see here's complex, run, run, complex, right? So I'm going to hold the key and click on, these two pieces, which are both complex fills. To my properties. And make settings. I don't know why that is so slow. I could pattern in here if I want to. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it basic. I'll let you guys get jazzy with it. But these are small. This is a big section, but, generally the drum's pretty smooth, right? This, be sure it's going to be covered up by everything else. So we probably wouldn't get too jazzy with that anyway. So I'm going to go with the percentage. I'd like to bump up. Not completely like that. Okay, contour underlay around the outside. Okay, we want contour. Perpendicular is the one that's opposite of the fill direction. And fill. Okay, length's 2.5. Increase that to 3. 3 is 2. I changed mine to 3 to 3.5. Okay. So play with it and see what you like underlay. Not your fill. This is your underlay.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So, and then commands, of course, thread tension we don't worry about, but we want to put, your basic lock stitch, right? Because there'll be much of a worry except here. Okay, so what we've got is you can set compensation automatically go. And if you too much because we went over, just go back in and moved up one bubble, just take it down bubble. There, see your compensation. I trust what's on the screen. I just don't. If you you can still see your compensation, but you get a better idea of where those areas actually are, right? Okay, so, we would put white in the eyes, and he's going to have a pale face. So, always a good idea, and where your out point is, there's my out point. It's a good idea not to just kind of travel on the edge, but you don't want to, be sloppy, and you're going to fill here. So, you kind of try to be neat about where you put your run stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a straight run stitch up there. And we'll zoom in around the eyes. You're free to do whatever on the eyes because these are going to be, if we put something like blue or brown eyes in there, right? It's going to be small. I'm not going to carve a hole for this. I'm just going to go ahead and, his little round eyes, right? Because you've got, flatten out a little bit up here. And close. And then just go, we can always move things around, but it's just as easy to come over here. And you can make them more round if you want. It up to you how you do this. We're going to cover some of this up a little bit anyway. Okay, enter. And you can ask me for both of these. Your endpoint. There's my endpoint. There's point. Because I do satin, I'll make the stitch direction this way. Okay, there's right. And it did it for both of them now. So I've got a jump here. And I've got, the ability to move things. So if I want to avoid a jump, there's my out point, right? Mine down there, I can go like this. Look at actually down there, but so we'll move it. We'll just go straight across. Go. Move up. Put it all together. Sorry, I told you wrong. Never mind. Do them one at a time. What it does is it combines them together.
Kind of like that, two of them without just if you hit that, go do the center. Have to.
you can combine pieces too. So if something that's close enough, you're not going to worry about a jump stitch. If it's small enough, yeah, just combine them. So go ahead, I'll put my out stitch out, or my out point. Go ahead and put it in that direction, and then we'll just go back and start punting again. Oh wait, that's right. And if you remember to, if you remember to put your jump stitch in, you can always just stay on that tool. A lot of times, I'll have a bunch of these, and then my jumps in, after I've done them, right? But you're comfortable with, and sometimes it's, using the colors if I lose track of what I did. Depends on how complicated things are.
Yeah.
And just go in and change the colors. Okay, there's my in point, here's my out point, and we're going to go in that direction. Okay, so I've got him pretty, I've got white sections pretty much done. I'm not going to be over worried about underlay. Those are generally a little bit small, but I do want to be a little concerned about it. So, try to do things in order since this doesn't automatically do it. Come and say, yeah, go ahead and put a little pull compensation. Underlay, I can get away with contour here, and that's going to be around the edge. Okay, so we've got, if we go and we look at our stitch ribbon and display, okay, there, my contour was that outline that went around. See, even at a 3, heavy that is. That's why I said, look at what you're comfortable with and what you need. We line at 3.5 on this.
Okay.
It depends on what you're doing. To me, that's very heavy. That's kind of a commercial underlay. And to me, it's a very heavy underlay. So I would just go back in here and say, these pieces, right, really don't need that. So back and let's, from 3 to maybe 3.5. Oh, it was, sorry. Done. On your day. 3.5. And I might put it period, but let me look.
And on underlay.
Yeah, so what we've got now, if you go back and look at that stitch ribbon, contour goes around. It's evened up a little bit. It's still kind of heavy, but it's not as bad. You could, but you're going to have to play with what you're comfortable with the machine. It's going to depend on your machine handle things, too.
There, the number, it's dense.
Right, density. Okay. And like if really, that's just way too much underlay. And okay, let's put this at 6. That's big, but I want you to see what happens. And, the difference is there. See how much bigger that is? Actually, that might just be just fine. You look at that, and that's at a 6 density. But I'll have to see, what it does. Like the normal density should fill in just fine. But if you have a black shirt underneath there, it might show through. See the difference on that. This little section here, I don't need a whole ton of underlay. So, if it goes up to, 6 there, that would probably be more than fine, right? See the underlay right there going across. In the eyes, I just have the contour where it goes around. You have to kind of look at what you want to do with your underlay. I'm going to turn this point off for a second. And, and you can see the compensation in the screen. And I'm going to, and I'll tell you why. If I didn't take this section here, over those lines, right? If I do that over these lines, I just kind of caught that right on the edge here. I manually punched this satin section in. Sometimes you have those obvious separations.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
And, so it's always a good idea to extend beyond that.
Okay.
And, sometimes, sometimes you end up with that if it's a lot of satin stitching, but, it's really, if you put two needle points together, you make it's like a braid almost, like when you braid somebody's head, a real sharp part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, the way to avoid that is to overlap it. All right, guys, back on. Okay, so what we've got is we just played with our regular complex fill, right? Yeah. So we kind of figured out what colors we wanted, on the pink ink, but I have the advantage of this here that'll come in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with the red pants. So that's the first thing too, and then of course the t-shirt, and then of course this, right? The washing's done, we're going to do something different with silk. What I do is use the monkey symbol, and they're not in my way. They're not visible on the screen. And it allows me to be able to see the other lines where I can, accurately digitize.
Okay.
So we've done white shirt. Logically, to me, the next thing would be what color do you want to make the shoes, and then maybe the pants, or I guess not. Well, yeah, the pants we could do, and then of course you would want to do the right. Except you've got this little problem right here that you'll have to be very careful about. So you're going to have to be accurate here with the jacket if you do the jacket last, right, or after the skin, or you have to be accurate here and here, and probably rather be accurate on the facial features and hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can go ahead and we can say, okay, let's do the pants. Now, this little piece here, I'm stickling over, right? With shoes, I'll let you get jazzy with the shoes, but I would do this with the shoes. I would use the pants column. It's column. What I can do is I can control the flow of these shoes. So just close together to start, right? And I can do all kinds of nifty things, like I can just basically follow the shape of the shoe, right? Be careful up in here, but shape of the shoe, dimension. See if that curves out. Hold on. Okay, left click there. It's a little kind of flow. Okay, pattern in there, and of course, we're going to change the color. I'll make his shoes red for right now, but see the flow?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you could always go in and you could put a pattern in. You fancy. You kind of think this out, but you could put, to just do the shoe in a complex fill to a certain point, like this. And come in and, make shoes, right? a pattern in that, but and then put a different, like a little decorative heel, right? I'll let you get jazzy with the shoes. You could do it any number of ways. If you really, really wanted to, you could. I wouldn't quite punch it like this, but you could do something. Let me get rid of this yellow. You could commit, really? Well, let me put yellow toe back. Is later. You head and I want to make these look more the tongue, and then you come up and you do, you dimension, right? I'm probably not going to do this very neatly, but wrong one. Kinds of things. You can make them look like high top tennis shoes. You could make them look like patchwork. You could do pretty much whatever you want. It's not letting me select for whatever reason. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'll let you play with those or how you want to do those, right? You could put laces on. You could, whatever you want to do with them. Okay, but, do that. That you can kind of run up here and down here. And if this on the toe, you're just going to have to suck up the jump. Or you can come in. Let's and make a sole put in there, right? Heel. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I stress, like, you can see kind of the difference by, either using the satin here for some flow or using satin as highlights. Satin stitching is or break the design. When you get a design and they're very flat looking?
Yeah.
Because all complex cells. Stitching is what really kind of plays on the eye and lets the light reflect in a certain way.
When you have a complex stitch, you can't do that with a satin stitch. You can't go into your
you get in here. Okay, what you go in here and I say, this is a complex fill, right?
Uh-huh.
I can do carb tile or program fill. Those are I can do.
Okay.
Give it a different pattern. I think it looks striky. See?
Yeah.
If I change my fill direction, of course, then, that changes as well. Okay, but once it's a complex fill. And the reason is, complex fill is made by tracing something, right? Made by. Okay. A stitch is in. Okay, so first click, main click, right? Right now it's 2 clicks. If I hit enter, I hit nothing. Okay, I have blocks, which are considered 4 points. So here's right there is a block. If I hit enter now, I have something. So the block, the first 4-pointer block, right? That's block 1. Point here and here compile block 2. Okay? And satin stitching, what complex fill is nothing more than running stitches put into a pattern. That's what it is. It's really 2 types of stitches, wing stitch and column. And wing stitches put into a pattern
Mhm.
is what a complex fill is. So, like on this one, we're talking about blocks. There's block 1, there's block 2, right?
Mhm.
With satin stitching, I can control my section. A corner, well, we'll find out in a second. So a corner, I of this thing by waste those points, right?
Mhm.
So block 2, block 3, block 4, even if they don't make an actual block, that's how it's viewed. Control the direction of stitching. I'm in control of how this is going to stitch. See, where I'm going is the direction of the stitch. And so, they'll buy blocks. It requires a minimum of 4 points to, and what happens is try to get into a pattern, like once satin stitch a little bit more, get a little more into a pattern, right? So, left, right, left, right, left, right, because if you're talking like I do and you forget and you over, okay, program will auto correct it for you. There's my, it's going to correct it for me, so that's plus. Because otherwise was kind of a crisscross mess.
Yeah.
And in the programs, they don't do that because what we used to do when we did letters was you can end like this. I went back. You would cross it, right? Down and allow that cross. Actually, I can still do it here. I come and go like this. It might let me do that. Okay, cross, but I've got 1 block, 2 blocks. Here's my 3rd block right now. It'll do that. But, actually have a cross intersection if we scroll through and get it. I don't know if it is not working. It just does not want to work with this video on this program. Like I can directly click on this. And we're going to go look at what this does. Okay, we can do that in a stitch ribbon. This, right, there it goes. It's going all the way up, and then cross. The program lets you do that. But here, if you forgot which way you went the whole way up, and you would have all those crosses, you would be so heavy, right? Now, stuff to know about satin stitching. When you go into your properties, you can come here and you can say, give me a pattern. This is so nice is even with the pattern, I still have flow. Flow with that S.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other lay for satin stitching is different. Whole combination is the same. Give it a percentage. You got the percentage here. See how that gets bigger or smaller? It's going to be a little bit of pull, so bump it on or, and see what happens, right? But satin stitching, if you have standard satin stitching, with underlay, you have to think in terms of this. You remember when you used to make clothesline tents as a kid? You had a blanket or sheet over the tent, and if you had 3 lines, then you had that center section held up, and it was a nice tent, right? If you had 1 line, then it was just held in the center, and it kind of came down at an angle. But if you had 2, you always had that little sag in the middle, right?
Right.
If you're using just plain satin stitching with no fill pattern in it, think of that clothesline tent. It wasn't enough. You need support in the middle. Okay? Contour is going to put an outline around the edge.
Okay.
Perpendicular, and you can see here it says the number of lines, right?
Right.
6. What this does, okay? Contour. Here comes perpendicular. See my lines? Okay. and then there's my fill. Okay, I could probably get away with 4 lines, but with satin stitching, the support system might tense, basically, right? And, you know, it's wide enough, you need more support.
Okay.
Just I'll bear that in mind with satin stitching. And it's going perpendicular to how stitching. The stitches are going side to side, right? Perpendicular to balance the pull of satin stitching.
Makes sense.
Same thing like when you look at your contour over here, it's the same thing. Okay, so those are the nuts and bolts of, like your satin stitch, your contour is what they call it, and your complex fill. Now, complex fill, if you want to do this in a complex fill, or, you know, if you had something, this doesn't have too many holes in it, but if you wanted to create something that you required a hole, right? Autos, come in here and begin punching the hole. Autos. What are you doing here with this space? Okay. And if you go here, so I'm thinking, why did it do that? See what happened? So if I make something fully out of this circle, that circle is going to be made. Okay, so bear that in mind. So, you know, if you come in here, you can't just a hole here, like this line or with this. I put this probably over top of the pants. I might put that over top, depending on, you know, how thick I was making something, right? For the fact that, yeah, big. When I'm in his face, you know, face, I've got these lights here, right? And be very accurate. You would come in, and I would probably do the ears separate, to be honest. You can do them however you want, right? So if the ears separate, you have a little more control. Like, I'll show you, I would do the ears. It's a little more work, but, you know, it gives him a little more character. Whoops, come up there. I say, and with, you know, complex fill, big that you want to, you know, easy on the detail, but okay, his ears, probably start here, probably end here, and good fill direction, so I'll just kind of leave it, maybe. Then over here, and I would say, oh, you know, he needs a little character on those ears, right? And I'm just these curves, right?
Okay.
And direction here. Get really, if you want to give him your low. Maybe that, and maybe change the purple to pink we picked. Okay, interesting. I don't know if you now. Let me do it. It's more interesting near, and if you wanted to, you could even do more here, right? Okay. Bear in mind that big, but that's a little more interesting than just that face altogether, right? I can change directions for one,
Mhm.
and him a little more character, give his ears a little more character, and
About that.
the same fingers. But to get back to what I was saying about the face, I'm just going to kind of punch around his face real quick.
Okay.
I pick it up into the hairline. So you're going into the hairline, right? A little more accurate here. Remember, we decided we're going to do jacket. So, be a little more accurate in here. Swig here, and let's auto close him because I've got these eyes. Then, oh shoot. Zoom first.
Mhm. I found that out a couple of times.
Yeah, forget about that because I have programs that'll let me do it, but I have to punch his head again. Yeah, thought auto panning, but I guess not. So, we'll get rid of it. So,
You said something about auto panning. Where's that?
you don't generally want to turn it on because if it sometimes.
Okay.
But it's that I said, too bad we don't have those settings. We can just kind of control a few things. And your tools and preferences. I can punch around
Okay.
his head up here. And I'll be accurate coming into here. And I could a chin, and if I want to get real fancy, I can give him a clutch chin. It's up to you. Okay, close him, and then we've got to do the eyes. And shape his eyes how you want them. Okay, which ear I did, I'd probably go here. There's my end point. My point would be, where I was heading. I would have done his face last, so we'll just put his out point up here. Remember, eyes are going side to side. The ears are there. This is a pretty good angle for the face. So that's not too bad in the rest of them, right?
Okay.
So here's my face. Now, it's just fine. So, we would just put that top, and then let's try again. So see, now that looks there, and we've got this covered. It'd be the same thing with that jacket. And to me, this would be more of a focal point to worry about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem will be that, you have any place, you're going to jump from up to the, ears, and then you can, pull over to here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could kind of tuck it in here if you wanted to, but I would just go ahead and take the jump up to his finger. Thing to work on. On this, a whole lot of stitches piling up, but at the same time, you want this detail. And to be careful, if you're going to do a complete outline, which just as practice, right? But you get away with just making these a complex fill, making the fill go in this direction and outline it. But if you're going to use a lot of outlining, you're going to want to use column because your fingers a whole lot of dimension. You can see the other one better. be careful of, which doesn't really, I probably should have been a little more careful. I have to change, I want to measure my fill directions. See how my fill directions are not going exactly the same, except maybe here.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful of that. Like if you go into this piece, right, turn on show points and your show beads. These are, these are your vertex selects, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember. You want to get to this, where you can drag these beads. There they are. I couldn't see my stitch direction guidelines, which kind of throws me. You're going to these beads. See that line?
Mm-hmm.
And change that direction. And that's to change the direction of this finger below, because it's the focal point. You could even do a complex fill. And if you still have like the option to come over here and reshape this and move if you need to. Okay, a little more you mentioned on the fingers. See, and actually even with that lightness, you can see the dimension there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's why satin stitch is so wonderful, because you could just give something a lot more depth. Tools that I want to play with, like steel tool. What it is it's a satin stitch outline. That's really you could use this off the white again. You could use around here and line that, but it's still stitch is going to be very, very even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tool's probably this one, because when you're doing this, you're going to have to start here, and I'm just going to kind of quickly do this, right? It's not, we'll take like a shortcut here in a second. I went all the way around, right? And right? What I have to worry about, I have too much curve going on here, right? Mm-hmm. What I got is overlapping here accurately. A lot of curve going on like I had there. I'm never going to get that. It's going to be too steep of an angle for it to have to deal with. So some commands to come up close here and then overlap at a rigid angle, right? Mm-hmm. And you overlap, you can't see the difference there, right?
Yeah.
It's really kind of the trick of doing a circle like that, because you could make it a complex fill and cut a hole out, but you've got a complex fill. You're not going to get the dimension. And like I see these little pieces, you actually can punch that all at one time, like when you're coming in here. Include that in, you're up here and just kind of make little right, like that. Or you could do, make these sections. And then do the next, and the travel. And then over top of it. So you can make like these silver and this gold, or these gold and this, brown for like wood, right? Or you can completely ignore them. It depends on what your preference is for design. You have to decide how important those are. But I like with them. And I might be down a little bit. on this program with the version, I dropped the density very good, so I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't add any full compensation. Maybe a full compensation, but no underlay, right?
Okay.
And, but I mean, some little details are cool, and sometimes they're just too much. I wouldn't put one by his hand here. I would totally. I wouldn't bother with this one either. Nobody's going to visually notice that. It's too close face. You know, but, that you have to look at when you're sewing. So, have any questions on manual punch tools? You good?
I'm good on that. So far, so good.
Okay, go to outline. I want you to practice outlining, right? Good view. If you're going to outline, don't do the highlight here on the ear. But a 3D view. Zoom in. Outline here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me turn the white compensation on the face. See those here? You might change the yellow color, or you can see now why I must never use white.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult to see. You don't want to just pick a funky color, so you can at least see that. You're going to have that around it. So you have to, kind of decide you really want to put an outline. I'd ignore that, to be honest. But practice outlining, like remember you've got the same tools. If I come in here and say, okay, I'm going to outline his hair. Right clicks, right? And I've got I can come up here, and I can hit autos. See I can say what kind of outline do I want. Bear in mind you've got compensation. So sometimes when you want to punch an outline, going into wireframe be helpful.
Now do that at
Right stitches.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, your show outline. Stitches. Make sure that's on, and turn this off. And then you go in and you can look at his shirt right here.
Okay.
Okay. So you might want to do, something like this. Okay, this is the actual outline. That's not the compensation. Depending on how your machine's going to handle things, do a little test stitch. That's why we're not doing anything real complicated. You might want to sit with that outline right inside here.
Mm-hmm.
You might go right on top of the green. Okay? So this can go in the pants, so I'll pretend like I'm right on top of this, right? Because I'll go right on top of the green so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, it's my wireframe. This means that it's just the outline. I'm on top over here. And stop here. Okay, so it's on top. Now let's put our stitches back in. See the difference? Change some vivid color. And this is set slightly side the wireframe. This is right on top of the outline. Probably right on the outline is the best to go, right? Because compensation, if you have too much compensation, you'll go beyond what you should. If you have little, you'll fall short. Compensation works like this. If our field direction on this shirt is going at the angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want more stitches put on the sides here. Pull compensation. Is it extends out here and down here from the stitches put in here.
Okay.
And can't necessarily control push compensation as much. You can adjust the full compensation, which goes side to side. So using that wireframe outline, you mind on the ends here, you need to come inside a little bit because there's not as much compensation as a full compensation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn you loose. I'll send this thing over so you can play with it, and we'll see what you guys come up with. This video will probably take, sometimes it's really fast. Let me turn off the recorder. Sometimes it just takes half an